Optimove, the leader in positionless marketing, frees marketing teams from the limitations of fixed roles, boosting campaign efficiency by 88%. Its positionless marketing platform delivers 3 transformative powers: data power for real-time customer insights, creative power for instant asset creation, and optimization power for self-optimizing campaigns. With Optimove, you can do anything and be everything. Go to optimove.com/total retail to get your first month free when buying Optimove's positionless marketing platform.
Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, the editor-in-chief of Total Retail, and I'm excited to be joined on today's episode by Kibaru Smith, who is the director of the Counterfeit Crimes Unit at Amazon.com. We're going to talk to Kibaru about the progress that Amazon has made in its counterfeit prevention and brand protection efforts. Obviously, an ongoing effort from the organization. So we've got some great insights from Kibaru to share with you. So I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Joe, for having me. I'm looking forward to this discussion and just excited to be able to talk to you about an issue that's very important to me and to Amazon, and that's fighting counterfeits and going after counterfeit infringers.
Yeah, so this is certainly a relevant and timely issue, and thank you for joining us on the show. I'll get us started by asking you a little bit about how Amazon is using, well, there's so much talk, maybe I should preface it, but there's so much talk about how artificial intelligence is infiltrating so many different facets of retail organizations. And you and your team within the counterfeit crime units are leveraging AI in certain ways. So maybe you could talk about how that technology is being used to prevent counterfeit product listings, particularly on Amazon.
Great. Look, excited to talk about that. And let me start by just giving a little background about what you mentioned, the team that I lead, our Counterfeit Crimes Unit. This week, we're right at 5 years. It's our 5-year anniversary, if you will, as we call it here in Amazon. CCU was started in June of 2020. And the mission of this team is to pursue counterfeiters, stop counterfeits from coming into the store, and to go after bad actors using external means, such as lawsuits and partnerships with law enforcement, to disrupt and dismantle counterfeit organizations. We're a global team from Seattle to Shanghai. There are other people like me, former prosecutors. I was a career prosecutor with DOJ and a state prosecutor. We have former law enforcement and investigators who are working with our teams across Amazon. And this is where we're really starting to talk about the AI and the machine learning and the data science that is being used to protect our store, our customers, brands, and consumers before bad actors could ever sell in the first place. And so let me just talk about that. Amazon's mission is to be one, customer-centric, customer-focused, and to be the safest and most reliable shopping experience for our customers. And to do that, we invest in billions of dollars. Last year, we invested $1 billion alone to protect our consumers and customers from fraud, counterfeits, and other types of abuse. And we have teams of thousands of individuals who are building AI models, machine learning tools, logo detection. We're doing billions of scans a day to look for suspect accounts and suspect behavior in the store. We're looking at IP addresses to see if it's related to an account that may have been shut down previously. Where we have vision learning tools that are looking at logos that are submitted by third-party sellers, and those compared to legitimate brands. And so we're constantly doing things to make sure and build the tools that are protecting our store and our customers and brands from the scourge of counterfeits. And a lot of it involves cutting-edge technology, billions of dollars in investments, and just tools across the store to protect us and brands from counterfeits.
Yeah, to that point, Kibaru, the bad actors that you're trying to prevent and protect your legitimate customers from, they also are leveraging these technologies, right? So it's critical that you as the organization, Amazon, are at kind of the leading edge in terms of investing in solutions and tools to help identify bad actors, prevent them from getting on the platform. Can you talk about that? How it's almost like an arms race where you have to keep up and keep ahead of the bad actors because they are also taking advantage of some of these technologies.
And you mentioned an arms race. I mean, when you talk about the amount of investments, you are looking at basically having a defensive and proactive team. I mean, almost at, the size of what a nation would
Yeah.
put to invest themselves, to protect themselves from bad actors, right? And so that $1 billion, two concepts come to mind when I'm thinking about the types of investments we're making. One, being a step ahead of the counterfeiters and the fraudsters. And then two, meeting them where they are, knowing that they are investing in new types of, the bad actors, that is, new types of tools, using AI and using LLMs to try to beat us and try to get into our store. And knowing that counterfeiters have throughout time, because this is one of the oldest crimes on the books, finding new ways to now exist in an e-commerce space. Counterfeiting has been around since, of course, the earliest times. And we know that they've operated in brick and mortar spaces, and they're now trying to move into e-commerce. And so we have to build tools that can stop and protect our customers and consumers. One of the tools that we use, we have a suite of tools under our brand registry program. Brand registry is a tool that has programs such as Project Zero. Our Project Zero tool gives brands the opportunity to take down listings on their own proactively if they see that these listings are counterfeit or infringing. And then what happens when they take those down is that our AI models and our tools that are working behind the scenes that customers and consumers never see, they go to work to look for other related account or other related bad action, right? Also, under our brand registry tool, we have what's known as transparency. It's a unique serialization tool that allows brands to affix their own serialization code to the products that are being shipped into our fulfillment centers so that we can scan those for authenticity. And consumers can also scan that for authenticity. And again, if we see any infringement, any fraud, our tools are working behind the scenes. We have over 88,000 brands that have enrolled in transparency. We've legitimized over 2.5 billion products as they've come into our fulfillment centers, right? And so all of these tools working together are critical to stopping bad actors. But in the rare instance, the very rare instance that bad actors get into our store where they attempt to sell counterfeits, our counterfeit crimes unit comes to play. And we partner with law enforcement all over the globe. We file lawsuits against these bad actors with brands. We claw back illicit proceeds, and we hold them accountable in courts. And that's the type of innovation and aggression that Amazon is bringing to protecting consumers, brands, and customers from the scourge of counterfeits.
Yeah, it's all about that trust that you want to create, right? From the consumer end. They want to be able to trust that what they're paying for is truly what they believe they're getting, and creating that trust with the shopper. Kabar, you alluded to the fact that you're marking 5-year anniversary of the counterfeit crimes unit at Amazon. So one, congrats on that. I'm
Thank you.
interested for your perspective on how over the years that business unit may have evolved. I don't know if you were there from the origination of the unit and 5 years ago. Perhaps you were, and maybe you could talk about that. And I'd love to kind of, as technology is introduced, and we've already discussed that, and bad actors find or try to attempt new ways to scam legitimate businesses. How have you had to evolve within the CCU at Amazon?
Yes, great question. I mean, it makes me reflect because I concluded my DOJ career 5 years ago and started with Amazon. So I've been with CCU since its inception. And we started with a focus on 2 countries at the time. We're now at or around, I believe, 20 countries where we're partnering with law enforcement and brands to pursue bad actors. We've pursued over 24,000 bad actors all over the globe since we've been stood up as a team, partnering with brands in civil suits and criminal actions all over the world, from the United States, Germany, London. We've also partnered with law enforcement in China over our 5-year timeframe. Last year alone, we had 60 raid actions against 100 bad actors in China who were identified, seized, and detained for counterfeiting. And what's critical about that work when we're going to the top of the counterfeit supply chain is that we're not only protecting Amazon customers, but we're protecting consumers broadly. Because before they leave China, before goods leave the country where these goods are being manufactured and distributed, these counterfeit goods, we're able to stop them and seize them before they make it to other destinations. And we're really excited about that work. We've seen that journey over time, and we've really, been surprised by the partnership we've had with Chinese law enforcement, the impact at the top of the supply chain. And so we're working in other countries, as I mentioned, like in Turkey, where we're seeing counterfeits be manufactured and fabricated from there as well. We've also identified over this time different schemes that bad actors are using. We've seen that social influencers are facilitating, in some instances, the sale and movement of counterfeit goods. We've been involved in a couple lawsuits where social influencers will use a scheme known as a hidden link scheme, where they may have a host of followers and they're directing their followers to, for example, an Amazon page that has a generic posting, but in their direct messaging, they're communicating with their followers about buying a counterfeit luxury item. And we filed lawsuits against bad actors in that space. And we've received judgments. And we've worked with organizations such as the International Trademark Association to highlight to consumers the ills of buying counterfeits and how it's not a victimless crime. Lastly, another example is we've identified schemes where counterfeiters are shipping the counterfeit product into the United States and other parts of the globe and shipping it separate from the label itself, so that the label and the counterfeit can be assembled in that country. And it basically gets around customs protection because customs officers often miss those products. And it's also an attempt to get around e-commerce stores and other stores who are selling legitimate products. And we partner with U.S. Homeland Security in an enforcement action where 9 truckloads of counterfeit automotive grills were seized in Newark, New Jersey, as a result of an action. So we've seen a host of different schemes used by bad actors, and we're always looking for ways that bad actors are trying to get around our proactive tools and also trying to evade customs and law enforcement officers.
You've given our audience an idea of the scope of this problem. Yeah, I think you said that your unit, the Amazon Counterfeit Crimes Unit, has pursued over 24,000 bad actors. So this is quite an issue, and not only something that Amazon is facing, but many different marketplaces in particular. I would love for you to share, and you just highlighted a couple of examples, what a typical case might involve in terms of your team. When you identify a bad actor, what does that look like? What is the process like going forward for pursuing legal action there? Maybe you can give an idea of how that process works.
Certainly. There are 3 primary ways that we identify what we call leads within CCU, our Counterfeit Crimes Unit. One is from a brand. The primary way that a brand will notify Amazon or my team of any infringement is what's known as a notice of infringement. And if a notice of infringement, or NOI as it's also called, is filed, again, our AI tools are working behind the scenes to see what's going on. Is this related to other selling accounts? Are there other products? And if we identify that it is in fact counterfeit, we can work with internal teams to quarantine products within our fulfillment centers. And leads can then be sent over to CCU, where we will partner with that brand for a civil or criminal action. And in some instances, that NOI in and of itself has not only resulted in action, civil suits, and criminal enforcements in the United States, but also upstream enforcements in China, where not only was that brand, the victim brand, where counterfeits were identified in China, but other brands across the same category were seized. And so it speaks to that kind of multiplying impact of that notice of infringement, how our AI tools work, how the teams of over thousands are working together to shut down these bad actors. But another way that we receive a notice or a lead for CCU is oftentimes from law enforcement. We have strong law enforcement relationships with U.S. Homeland Security, local law enforcement, for example, LA County Sheriff's Department, City of Portland, and they may, in instances, reach out to us if they have a lead. For example, we received a lead from Houston HSI related to boxes that contained counterfeit toothbrush heads. And that helped us and prompted us to look beyond that particular seller and identify other potential counterfeit products and counterfeit sellers. The third way is through CCU leads. As you mentioned at the outset, AI, building API tools that are data leads within Amazon are helping us generate leads, whether we're looking at customer complaints or notices of infringement or addresses that are suspect or IP addresses that are opening and closing accounts, banking information. My team will take that data and identify our own leads and connect with brands. And those are the 3 primary ways that we're partnering with brands, and we're having a global impact. We're partnering with brands all over the globe, and we're continuing to expand. For example, we're starting to do more work in India. That's an area of focus for us. I mentioned Turkey, Vietnam, other countries outside of what's typically raised as China, we're going to other countries across the globe to partner with brands to go after the source of these counterfeits.
Yeah. Areas that are traditionally manufacturing hubs as well, Kibaro.
Exactly. We know that as the OECD, which is a large think tank that looks at the issue of counterfeits and piracy, assesses the loss to legitimate businesses and the sale of counterfeits at over 500 or at or around $500 billion, right? And so we know that this is a huge, market for bad actors. And so we just have to meet them where they are on the globe and through their schemes that they're using to commit and complete these crimes. And we're excited about the work and always looking for new ways to go after these bad actors.
Yeah. So as you've talked already about some of the technology solutions that are in place to help you protect against these bad actors and obviously the legal action that you're taking as well. I want to get your thoughts on, in terms of the consumer and what you're doing at Amazon to help educate shoppers about counterfeit risks to
Yeah.
protect themselves, right? So obviously you want to protect Amazon, the business, but you also want to have the consumer be able to protect themselves. So can you talk a little bit about those efforts?
Certainly, as I mentioned, we are constantly trying to find ways to remind consumers through public service announcements and relationships and partnerships with organizations such as INTA, International Trademark Association, about the issue of counterfeits and how it's not a victimless crime, how it is related to other types of crime, whether it's money laundering, terrorism financing, human trafficking, child labor violations, how it impacts designers and innovators and their pockets when counterfeits are sold, how it impacts the public economy, the public fisc, takes away from tax dollars. And we're always trying to find ways to share that message through public service announcements. For example, in 2024, Amazon partnered with Indicam and H Farm College in Italy to launch Challenge the Fake. It's an innovative competition challenging more than 600 H Farm college students in Italy to create marketing campaigns promoting anti-counterfeiting messages to Generation Z, Gen Z. We also, as I mentioned, worked with INTA and launched the 2024 Unreal campaign, an Unreal campaign challenge, asking global members to produce a 60-second public service announcement video that highlights the dangers of purchasing counterfeits. Those are a couple efforts that we do from the messaging and public service announcement side. But we also, as Amazon, a store, we stand behind the products that are purchased in our store. And through our A to Z guarantee, if a consumer or a customer purchases a product that they believe is counterfeit, we fully and proactively refund that customer. And we stand behind the products, and we're excited about our practices to show that, this is the safest and most reliable store for our customers. And we want to make sure that those customers are satisfied every time they're shopping in the Amazon store. Those are just a couple examples of the things that we're doing to keep our customers' trust, because once you earn it, it's easy to lose, but it's hard to gain in the first place.
And I would imagine, given we've spoken about the scale of this issue, that consumers' antennas are up, right? Compared to maybe 10 years ago, they are now more on the lookout. Is that fair to say? You would say the consumers are better educated and more cautious in being more well informed on what counterfeit looks like and potentially could spot it out themselves.
I think you're right. I think they also understand that this is an issue that impacts the whole supply chain across retail, from brick and mortar to e-commerce. I was talking with a friend yesterday about a case I had while I was at DOJ that involved counterfeits that made it into a brick and mortar national retail chain that had to be recalled, right? And so this is not just e-commerce specific.
Yeah.
It impacts the entire retail industry. But I also believe that consumers know that Amazon is doing what it takes. As you mentioned, you made the almost military reference to the type of resources that are required to go up against and fight and pursue bad actors. And Amazon has that at over $1 billion, thousands of employees, the innovation and the technology that happens behind the scenes that customers oftentimes don't know about. For example, since 2020, though our product selection has expanded, our valid notices of counterfeits has decreased by 35%. And what I think this represents is, one, we are basically building the most robust seller vetting tools and the AI tools that are keeping counterfeits out of the store. And counterfeiters know that this is not the place to try to sell and hawk their trafficked and fake goods. But in the rare instance that they make it in the Amazon store, our CCU stands ready to go after these bad actors in partnership with law enforcement all over the globe.
You mentioned law enforcement. You mentioned the brands themselves. customer feedback, how does that kind of factor into your counterfeit prevention strategies? How frequently are you hearing from your customers? What's their role in terms of protecting your other shoppers as well in terms of counterfeit?
And I got to tell you, it's funny you asked that question because for me and my team, customer means different types of
Right.
customers. Customer means law enforcement for me. And our law enforcement partners are excited about our ability to share data in real time with them when we identify fraud that's happening in the store, counterfeit fraud that's happening in the store, and our ability to share that data with them so that they can move quickly to go after bad actors, enforce search warrants, arrest, and hold these bad actors accountable. Customers also means brands for us. We're receiving positive feedback from brands. For example, we recently had results from Pandora, I believe the largest jewelry maker in the world, from an investigation that lasted 3 years. We've been working with them for 3 years, and we ultimately received criminal convictions in China where bad actors received one bad actor received up to 3 years in prison for attempting to sell counterfeits across Europe. But then also the customer that many people would tend to think of, the Amazon customer, the consumer, our team is looking at, as I mentioned, things like complaints that are made or NOI, notices of infringement that brands submit. And we use that data to take action, to scale our actions. And as a result, we've had over 24,000 bad actors pursued over the past 5 years, over 200 civil actions that we pursued. Last year alone, we seized over 15 million counterfeit products, identified, seized, and disposed of over 15 million counterfeit products before they made it to consumers around the globe. So we're really excited about that work. And we believe that our customers across several different swaths are excited about what Amazon and what CC is doing to protect them.
Yeah, it certainly validates the efforts of you and your team. So congrats on that. I have a couple more for you, Kabaro. I imagine in your role, obviously the day-to-day operations, but I would think you kind of have to have a kind of a long-term vision as well as to what's to come next, right? You know, as we've noted, bad actors are always trying to stay one step ahead, so you have to keep pace with them. In your opinion, what are the next big challenges you see in the fight against counterfeiting?
No, that's a great question. That's something that we're constantly thinking about. Mention at new places where counterfeiters are fabricating these goods, not just China. As I mentioned, Turkey, places like Vietnam, places like India, and making sure that CCU, and I'll speak about CCU, has the resources, attention, partnership to go after these bad actors so that we're meeting them where they are. That's a theme for us meeting these bad actors where they are. That's a critical piece. And then just always trying to think outside the box and be creative and almost think like the bad actors so that we can, identify what schemes they're using. We understand that the scale of goods moving into countries is so large. As I mentioned, the issue of shipping the counterfeit product separate from the label and the products being assembled later, right? Just trying to figure out ways to partner with law enforcement and our customs partners to go after these types of schemes. We're seeing things such as bad actors using fake and fictitious invoices as a way to show provenance or a relationship with a brand, making sure that we're educating law enforcement partners about these new schemes so that if there's a wire fraud statute that they could use to go after these bad actors, that they could use those. And so just identifying new schemes, educating our partners, and collaborating among brands, law enforcement, and e-commerce stores. Because in the day and age we're in now, we cannot operate in silos. We have to come together because these bad actors are constantly trying to find new ways to sell their counterfeits and hawk their goods.
Quickly, on a follow up there in terms of that collaboration piece, and we've talked about the efforts of the CCU at Amazon, but is that collaboration happening across the industry in terms of retailers? You talked about collaboration with law enforcement, but it would seem to me that there's opportunities for collaboration across retailers and brands as well. Is that happening at the level that it should be?
We're always open to partnering with different e-commerce stores, brick and mortar. We are a part of what's known as the Anti-Counterfeiting Exchange, which is effectively a consortium or a group of e-commerce stores, Amazon, Alibaba, Walmart, and eBay,
Okay.
where the purpose and mission of this is to share information related to known counterfeit bad actors. We believe that, for that to be effective, we need to be aggressive and we need to all be collaborative and use this approach as one that we all see as a shared vision of having a broader impact. Amazon is committed to this exchange and we're committed to sharing data. but that's one way for us to have a bigger impact across various e-commerce stores. And then also to bring other relevant parties into these types of bodies, whether it's logistics companies or financial institutions, social media platforms, because they play a role in this as well. But we're excited about these types of partnerships and also leaning into partnerships and data sharing with law enforcement, as we see that it's critical to us being effective.
So I have one final question for you. Really as an expert in this field and having led the CCU for 5 years now, I'd like to get your advice or your insights for our audience, particularly for those retailers and brands that are just beginning to navigate counterfeit issues. What steps, maybe if there's one or two things that you would advise them to start with? I think it would mean a lot to the audience, and obviously this is something you're living day in and day out. So I think, yeah, you might have some thoughts for them.
Yeah, starting with Amazon, I would encourage these brands, if they're selling in the Amazon store, get familiar with our brand registry tool. Again, it offers a whole suite of options to help them proactively and kind of take some agency to take bad listings down, and the transparency tools, and get to know systems within e-commerce stores. And I'll just talk about Amazon. But then also shift your thinking on how we need to be effective. And that involves, as we like to say at Amazon, the three-legged stool, coming together with e-commerce, because e-commerce is here and it's here to stay, but working with e-commerce stores, working with law enforcement, and bringing yourself into this process so that we can share data and take quick, swift action in the event we see counterfeiting, because it takes collectivism. Us doing this by ourselves or in a silo is not going to have the impact that we need to have. And then I'd also say, ensure that your trademarks are protected in places like China, because to get that type of enforcement on the ground there, that's going to be an issue that comes up. So I would encourage, one practice tip I would push is, for a new brand, and if your brand is taking off and it's getting a lot of interest, make sure you register those trademarks abroad so that they can have those protections in other countries as well, not just the United States. And so the other thing I would just add is, I'd encourage all brands, law enforcement, and others who are interested to get familiar with our most recent brand protection report. It was released March 26th of this year. And it really highlights much of what we've been talking about: our proactive tools, our robust protections that we have within the store, taking the fight to counterfeits and counterfeiters, through our CCU, and how we're educating consumers about the ills and the scourge of counterfeits. And so I'd encourage them to get familiar with that as well.
Yeah, and I would echo that. That's actually how we got connected to Kibaro, is that brand protection report. So certainly advise the audience to take a look at that, as well as the other words of wisdom that Kibaro shared with us. So we're just about out of time for today. I do want to thank Kibaro Smith, the director of the Counterfeit Crimes Unit at Amazon, for joining us on this episode of Total Retail Talks. Thank you, Kibaro.
Thank you again, Joe, for having me.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.
Optimove, the leader in positionless marketing, empowers marketers to instantly deliver real-time personalization. Boosting campaign efficiency by 88%, it allows marketers to do anything and be everything. Go to optimove.com/total retail to get your first month free when buying Optimove's positionless marketing platform.